Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Hello there, team. Hello, whānau. Pat with you tonight. First things first, yes, I know, we normally have a co-host, a wee Wookie. The wee Wookie is in the UK, all by himself at the moment, looking for his favourite band, searching around those cobblestone streets going, where can I see my favourite band? But we had a guest host who was going to come on with us tonight who has pulled up sick. So just me. Well, it's actually not just me tonight because we've got a really interesting show. Tonight we are going to be talking to the NZEI about their historic strikes coming up at the end of October. We're going to be talking to Craig Renney about the GDP numbers. Craig Renney has already done his podcast on those, and that podcast is already up on YouTube if you want to have a look at some other bits and bobs. And he kind of describes the GDP numbers as bad as it can be. So we'll get Craig on live as well. The conversation with NZEI is pre-recorded, so I've already done that. We're going to get Craig on in 20 and 30 minutes or so, and that'll be live. We'll talk to Craig about it. And coming up shortly, we're going to have a chat with Rev Mel McKenzie. Mel McKenzie is one of the Anglican priests who chained themselves to Nicola Willis's office because we want to phone. We want to find more about that. Find out more about that. So that'll be that's the show. So it's kind of like I don't have a co-host, but we're doing 3 interviews. So it's kind of like I've got 3 co-hosts tonight. It's sort of a bit of a strange thing. So as always, if you want to participate, the chats are open. I'll do my best to keep an eye on them and to keep an eye on what you are saying in them. Also, emails open. It's harder to get us on the email during the show, but mail@bhn.nz if you want to have a look. Also, heads up, obviously, Bright Hearing News tomorrow night. And if you are a patron, you may have already seen some. Well, I was going to try and use this one tonight. I think it looks a bit better with just one person. You think it looks a bit better? I think it looks a bit better. On the Patreon at the moment, there's already an interview there with Paul McMahon. That was done by Emily today. So I'm not sure whether Emily's going to show this whole thing on Bright Hearing News or this is specifically for Patreon and YouTube. It'll be uploaded to YouTube on Saturday morning, but you can get early access to it right now if you are a patron. And it is a time for me to also say thanks hugely to the patrons. You guys mean so much to us. You help us do what we're doing. We are in planning mode for 2026. And we are going to be changing out Patreon a little bit. And some of the things we're going to be doing is going to give you guys, if you are a patron, better and different access to what we do. The store is currently open. We're going to try and press some merch tomorrow. So if you've got a order in right now, every chance there is that it'll get pressed and sent out tomorrow. But everything is on there. We do have Nala and Ilva merch. Actually, have I got a picture of that? I wonder if have I got a picture? If I do that, what am I going to get? Oh, yeah, look at that. It's going to pop up on the screen. I was wondering about that. If I just do that and then go open with Google Chrome. There we go. This is some of the design work put out by Emily today. Some Nala and some Ilva and some Pat and Chewy with Ilva and Pat with Nala there. This is going to become merch as we go along the way. There is a lot going on this year in this world. We've got mugs coming from China and enamel pins. So we may turn this into merch this year. It may be early next year. We'll see how that all pans out, but that's in there as well. The shop is up and running. It's active at the moment. If you'd like to get something quickly, as I said, we'll be doing some pressing tomorrow and sending it out on Monday. If you've been waiting for a week or so, I apologise. We'll get it done for you tomorrow and get it out over the weekend. The other thing I wanted to give you an update on is the website. The website is looking slick and cool and amazing. Thanks to Yoan, who's working on it. There is a front page with all of our work. Look, there's the front line, there's Locked Out, there's Shorts, there's the three podcasts at the moment. It does actually have a link to the shop. Look, you can even go there and get special link through. It goes to the same back end of Shopify, but it's all there. We've started up a blog as well. There's currently only one item on the blog, which is where we got an email from a nurse to tell us about what it was like nursing in New Zealand day to day. But it's getting there. It's getting sort of better and better, and we're slowly building it out. Individual show pages. There's a Pat and Chewy with the Big Hairy News page with clips and everything on there. There's even a special page which we're going to get up and running for Bright Hairy News. You ready for this? You watch the banner. Fridays, and someone still has to send their. Did I email Ems this week? I think maybe I did. I'm not sure. But yeah, we're building that out slowly but surely to kind of give you a hub. Because sometimes when people say, "Oh, how do we find you?" You go, "Well, YouTube. We're the Big Hairy Network. You can go to my Twitter. You find us through Twitter or TikTok." And now what we'll be able to say is just go to bhn.nz because everything links into there. It links to all the other sites and more. So, yeah, check it out. And if there's any ideas, I believe there's even some conversations going on between probably people in the chat right now and the developer for putting some special keeping you updated on what's happening in Parliament sections on that website as well. So lots of exciting things going on, especially coming into 2026, which is obviously going to be a huge year with the election. There's a couple of other things I'm going to try and talk about tonight. I know that we have done a lot with Charlie Kirk this week for obvious reasons. And you've probably all heard the news. You know, it's kind of mainstream news when TV1 does a story on it, this whole Jimmy Kimmel thing. I just wouldn't mind if we've got time tonight to sort of lay that whole thing out, just to put it before you. And also, there's another thing I was going to talk about probably at a different time, so we might do it between the interviews, which is about these text messages. It's funny because, you know, it feels closer and closer and closer and closer to saying that this person is not a MAGA right-wing person. Yet there's the series of text messages that have come out allegedly from the alleged shooter, and people on the left are going, this doesn't make sense because, and people on the right, like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, are going, this doesn't make sense because, so we might have that's like a 1 or 2 minute bit look at that as well. But look, as I've said for this week, we're going to try and keep the shows down to under 90 minutes. So we'll see if we've got time for those. We've definitely got the NZEI coming up. We've got Craig Renney coming up. And right now it's probably time to start the show. As we start the show, and welcome to the show, the supervising chaplain from Victoria University and recent chainee to Nicola Willis's office. It is the Reverend Mel McKenzie. Mel, welcome to the show and thank you for joining us.
Oh, kia ora, Pat. Mihi nui. Yeah.
I nearly said the very reverend as a way of kind of saying something nice, but actually that's a title, isn't it? So in my head, I stopped because I was like, the very excellent, we can't say that because there's a title which is very reverend amongst the England. Am I right in that? My memory serves me right?
I think there's most reverends, very reverends, venerable. I think I'm actually venerable, but let's just say we're not all about the titles. So at least,
I have one really important question to ask you tonight. One.
Absolutely.
There's only one. You're married to a reverend?
I'm married to a reverend. Another one. Yeah, a reverend doctor, actually.
So this is my only question for the night that I really want the answer to. I'm kidding, obviously, but one of the most important. If there's two reverends in the house, do you fight over who gets to say grace? Like who does it? Like is there a way that it gets decided, drawing straws, or what do you do?
There's just heavy pressure put on kids. In fact, we named a child Grace. Long story, but heavy pressure on that particular one.
Fair enough.
Deliver. Yeah.
You spent a couple of nights, sometime this week, chained up to Nicola Willis's office because you had a protest and a message to send, and you were doing it, I think, as a way and a hopeful desire to actually meet with the minister? I'm not sure. I understand you didn't get to meet face to face. Is that correct?
No, I'd actually requested a meeting with her a couple of weeks earlier, and we met with her very lovely advisor, Ram, over Zoom, and passed on comments via him. But we're really looking to meet with the minister, or actually even any of her cabinet colleagues would have done on Tuesday, but their schedules were too busy, so we were told. So, yeah.
So we're watching some video footage from breakfast this week. How many nights were you there for?
We were there for 32 hours. So we were there from Monday morning through to Tuesday night, but we didn't stay overnight that night. Lots of people with small children.
Gotcha.
But also, we felt like we'd really so thrilled for the conversations that we've been able to have, and the media that we'd had picked us up. So just wanted that message to get through, that we really wanted a time frame. That was our goal, actually, to get a time frame from the minister or from the government when they would impose sanctions on Israel. But that has not been forthcoming, but we'll continue to put that to them.
So as you say, it was specifically about getting sanctions on Israel. That was your desire. Talk to me about your thoughts about what's happening in the Middle East at the moment. Why do you think it is that this government needs to put sanctions on Israel?
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm not alone in that. Last weekend we saw more than 20,000 Aucklanders from, march in Tamaki Makaurau and protests up and down the country. Like, it's common. You can run across people really trying to put that to the government up and down the country. So it really feels like it's the mood of the country. We just wanted to amplify it. As we were protesting, we came back, and the UN Commission of an Inquiry has just announced that they do consider genocides occurring now. Mm-hmm. Many people will have seen that news, and it's just feels like at that point it's time for governments to act. Doctors Without Borders have said doctors can't create a ceasefire, but political leaders can. So it's on them now, and it really is on them now. From our end, the UN General Assembly's meeting next week, and our Foreign Minister, Dear Winston, is heading over. So, so we're looking to see announcements on statehood and also sanctions. And with what's going on in Gaza City, just right at present with the siege there, it's time. It's just time with that level of destruction occurring. It's deeply grieving to me. Yeah. What's
your best bet? What do you think is going to happen? Like, Winston's across there. Are we going to get sanctions? Are we going to get statehood? What does the vibe tell you?
I put that to this week. The Green Party kind of rocked out before their caucus on Tuesday, and then picked up signs that they held in the House, looking to just sort of continue to put that question to the government. I asked them the same question. I felt like they were more qualified to answer, but statehood might be a thing that it's already recognised by so many nations, but 143 off the top of my head. But and so it would be likely that we would head in that. I think sanctions, though, it feels like a moral issue now. We've sanctioned Russia quickly for the war in Ukraine. There's sanctions on Hamas. So it's a historical feature that when we sanction countries heavily when they're not listening, that's often what it takes. Those kind of hit people with the consequences that matter to them, and love to see that flow around.
What would you say to that opinion out there? David Seymour has this opinion that we shouldn't give them statehood. We shouldn't recognise them while Hamas is in charge. As you say, there's sanctions on Hamas. So what would you say to people who are saying, once we get rid of Hamas, then we can recognise them?
Yeah, I think all the agreements to recognise statehood, at least from UK, Australia, is, to the best of my knowledge, all come with, and New Zealand's proposal are the same, are quite strict riders on what we'd need to see in order for that to happen, and that's rightly so. So need to see democratic process and real meaningful government over there. So it makes sense. So that's how I'd love to have a conversation with David Seymour, and that would be on many things, but that would definitely be one of them.
Did you get any kind of interactions with people when you were protesting? Like, did you get people who were pro-Israel Zionists come up to you and engage, or not?
Oh, look, Pat, it was an amazing experience. Johnsonville Mall, I'm not sure how many viewers would be very familiar with Johnsonville Mall. It's not a thriving metropolis of Wellington at the moment, but we certainly had just a constant stream. We often had 20, 30 people with us almost all the time that it was not sleeping hours, and sometimes up to 50, 60 on the pavement. I felt like I was in a street party for a couple of days. And I would say so many retirees, I guess that's who's around in Johnsonville in the daytime, amazingly thankful, interested, supportive. So I'd say we met with hundreds of people, one or two who wanted to express a different view to ours, but I was just actually really staggered that it was just one or two. Entitled to their opinions, but it was absolutely the minority.
Right.
Nicola Willis said we were highly intimidating, and so I know I'll let viewers be the judge of how I'm about 5'2" on a good day, and my colleagues are pretty hard case. So I think but no, certainly not many. So much support. It was staggering.
The whole conversation around Israel Gaza, you work as a supervising chaplain at Victoria University, obviously means you're going to be around late teens to early 20s, a lot of those people in that age group. What is the vibe you get as a university chaplain for what that generation think of what's going on over there?
Look, I think they're appalled. Many people are appalled. I think maybe not very, quite disheartened by the state of the globe and its polarization, US especially. It's just outrageous, and quite sensitive about that. So I think on this issue of the Middle East, they're angry, they want action, they're frustrated with this government, and it's so interesting because for them, people who are being hit pretty hard in their hip pocket by cost of living crisis, you'd think they'll be on about the price of cheese all the time, but it's actually this human suffering that I think I notice them wanting to process, wanting to see what they can do. Got salient beginning journos hang out with us and writing lots of articles, and so they're really motivated to see action.
I've always been interested in, and you are someone who works in the religious field. I don't know if that's the correct way to say it or not. You're involved in the ecosystem of people employed to do official religion. The Israel-Gaza conversation, it feels to me like the loudest voice is always from the area of pro-Israel voices, Zionist kind of positions. It is often seen as a religious area to be in. The evangelical Christian comes in there a lot. We think about American politics, we think about evangelical Christians and Israel being in lockstep. That's obviously that's not you. So can you explain to us maybe the difference in your faith position to other people's faith position who would take the opposing view, specifically on the Israel-Gaza situation?
Yeah, sure. I'll try and give you that in a nutshell, because that could turn into one kind of lengthy sermon, I don't think your listeners are totally signing up for. But I think I'd love to get my religious. I've got a couple of mates who are lecturers in religious studies, and they really look at they'd start with the spread of the Christian population in New Zealand and say, actually, the loudest voices are utterly minority, but they're really good at getting in the media. And the bulk of what they call the mainline church, so it's Catholic, Anglican, Presbyterians and all the
Presbyterian,
people who run
Baptist.
yeah. And some of the independent, more moderate churches, they're just the bulk of the numbers by far, far, far. And they're they'll be the people who, when you go down to the local op shop, are running the op shop, they're running the food banks, they're doing the Meals on Wheels. Quite locally focused often in terms of wanting to live out their beliefs, and so not always primarily motivated about they're kind people who don't want to have a fight with all the time in the media. So that's probably why you don't hear a lot in the media, but definitely numerically the majority, and pretty frustrated by some of the views which are just more of the periphery of folks. I think on this issue for them, it's an interpretation issue, I think, and there's a lot. If you open up the Bible, you get a lot about the nation of Israel, and I don't know how much you want to dive into that theology, but there's a sense, at least from the mainstream churches I've just been mentioning, which is the bulk of people, that Christ was there to fulfill the purposes of God, and took on a life of actually poverty and suffering to be with people, and then kind of took upon the purposes of God and basically set them off on the course they were meant to be, which was a peace-loving, deeply justice-focused, kind of respectful way of being. And so so I think it's kind of where they put their focus on. Really broadly, Old Testament and New Testament. I think I'm sure people would love to pick a fight with me on that for a long time, but it's basically where you land on wanting to put your emphasis, I think. And some people really want to turn up loud the vengeance that just isn't the way most churches would understand it. Yeah. Anyway, hope that's enough of the sermon.
It's interesting you say most churches, and as you're describing it, I understand what you're saying about the bigger, more traditional churches, but like you say, the noisy churches seem to be able to get out that vengeance perspective fairly well within sort of mainstream New Zealand. I was going to say, your protest, you have said tonight, your protest had sort of two main objectives: one, to meet with Nicola Willis; two, to get a date set on statehood.
Sanctions, sanctions.
Sanctions. A date on sanctions. Yeah. We didn't get that quite. You said there was other things that went on, like the community that came up around it. What happens next for you guys? Do you have like a plan of action? Are you going to do more are you going to activate? You can do more activations with this? You have more ideas around this? Or where to from here, from the group of reverends and priests that took this stand this week?
Yeah, well, we're part of a national network, Aotearoa Christians for Peace in Palestine, and they're a collection of people who are either church leaders, but also just lots of other interested people are totally behind that. And it's up and down the country, and so there was a group that went into Simeon Brown's office, and they were a really mixed group of people. There's a Baptist pastor, Caleb Hora, who's an awesome guy. So there's a real mix of us, and actually the ones you saw on the media this week were just the ones who put our hands up to go first. And there's so there we're just considering what we're really keen to do is just continue to keep connected to other groups that are there's a constant run of protests in every main centre, and we just want to work alongside our friends who are in those spaces, but also friends in political spaces, to try and just go for us it was about actually Pat, it was about you get most of us think of a Palestinian protest, you get people in kefias waving flags, and that's been a lot of the media lately, and it's awesome, and I really support what they're doing. We wanted to take the huge mandate of people and massive kind of walks of life that have been represented in those protests. But just to kind of add a different face that was maybe a little bit unexpected.
Yeah.
And for us, we were always looking to, as the church or church leaders, like our lives are about trying to live out what we believe. So to kind of go, actually, we want to do that, and we're asking politicians to live by a value system. Let's see it. Let's actually see that you can make all these calls and statements, but if we don't actually come through when people are deeply suffering, then what is it? Just words? Yeah. Well, it's exciting to hear what you just said, and I picked up on these words. You said we put our hands up first. That implies that there might be some others with more to come in the future, which is an exciting thought. Maybe. Who knows? See what you guys get up to. Yeah, you never know. Church leaders sort of pop up in unexpected places, but regardless, we continue to encourage people to write, to use all democratic means to try and put some pressure on the local members of parliament, and particularly those government members to only need 6. And our hope would be that there's some government members who use just put their heart into practice and to get that. They're at the UN next week. We could see a lot happening in the next couple of weeks. For goodness sake, this government's passed so much under urgency. We know they can just about sneeze and deliver a new law. So I don't know. It's already, the format's already there for the sanctions against Russia, so they can roll this fast through if they need to.
And that's such a good point. That why did it take them a month to talk this over when they've passed everything under urgency? Such a good point. Hey, Mel, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thanks for giving us some time.
Oh, look, it's so lovely to meet you, Pat, and just wish you all the best for the rest of the evening and the show.
Thank you very much, and we'll hopefully talk sometime soon. Stay in touch. If you're doing any more activations, let us know. We'll get you back on again.
Thanks so much, Pat, and go well.
All the best. That is the Reverend Mel McKenzie, one of the protesters at Nicola Wilson's offices this week. Right. A couple of chats that have come in. Let's just get to these. Citizen Gold wants to remind us, of course, at the very most, there's 457 days till the next election, at the very most. I hope you got that right, by the way, Gold. It'd be really, if this happens every day, and I'm not saying it's going to happen every day, but if it did, and we got up to the last possible election day and you're out by like a week, it'd be pretty embarrassing. I believe you, though. So 457 days at most. We have a chat here from the Southern Moonlight. Hit refresh on the merch page to see if Nala merch is up yet. Nala merch is not up yet. We do have the final designs. We are working on it. As I said at the start of the show, I like, do I want to commit? I struggle to commit. I will commit. They'll probably be up this year. Probably. Just because there's so much going on, guys. There's so much going on, but they'll probably be up this year. Kiwi Bird has a hot take. We shouldn't recognise Israel while Netanyahu is in charge. That's an interesting thought, Kiwi Bird. Not necessarily Israel, right? But fair. Okay, fine. But how do you unrecognise a country? I guess that's what is called sanctions, isn't it? Maybe not technically unrecognising it. But there you go. All right, let me just send off my text to Mr. Craig Renney and say 5 minutes, and that's that done. Let's have a look at this story around Jimmy Kimmel. Now, I've got a whole bunch of, they're all pretty short and to the point, but a whole bunch of video to show you around this Jimmy Kimmel situation from today. The first thing I did want to show you, though, is what Jimmy Kimmel said the day after the Charlie Kirk shooting. He's been cancelled. I don't know if it's the right word. He's been suspended, may not be the right word. But the footage you're seeing, which we will show you, is the kind of last straw type thing. This was the night of, or the night after the shooting, when he got his first chance to actually share some thoughts about it. This is what Jimmy Kimmel had to say.
The second largest city in our bitterly divided nation, where, like the rest of the country, we're still trying to wrap our heads around the senseless murder of the popular podcaster and conservative activist Charlie Kirk yesterday, whose death has amplified our anger, our differences. And I've seen a lot of extraordinarily vile responses to this from both sides of the political spectrum. Some people are cheering this, which is something I won't ever understand. And we had another school shooting yesterday in Colorado, the 100th one of the year. And with all these terrible
100th of
things
the year.
happening, you would think that our president will at least make an attempt to bring us together, but he didn't. President Obama did. President Biden did. Presidents Bush and Clinton did. President Trump did not. Instead, he blamed Democrats for their rhetoric. The man who told a crowd of supporters that maybe the Second Amendment people should do something about Hillary Clinton. The man who said he wouldn't mind if someone shot through the fake news media. The man who unleashed a mob on the Capitol and said Liz Cheney should face 9 barrels shooting at her for supporting his opponent blames the radical left for their rhetoric. And
so, I mean, he was obviously still very critical of Trump in that monologue, but you could see very clearly he said in that monologue that he did not support, what had happened, and he was confused by the celebratory nature of some people. I'm going to visit our friends from Pondering Politics because they've already done the editing for us, and this is the clip, right? This is the clip that Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air for. A basic suspension, but with no fixed date to come back.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from.
That's actually true, by the way. Now, it feels like it may well turn up that he's not MAGA, right? Cool, got that. But at the time, nobody knew, and they were doing everything they could to point to him not being MAGA. I'm not saying they were kind of going, lies are being told. What they were doing is no one had the answer at that point, and they were saying, not ours, not ours. So actually what he said there is accurate. It's true.
As anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. Okay. He's at the 4th stage of grief, construction. Demolition.
It's a very clever, very funny joke. It's a very funny joke.
Construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
Yeah. So that was the sum total of what he got. Can we say fired for? So that's what he said. He basically made a very funny joke about. I think it was very clever. It was obviously quite cutting as well. But the worst part was MAGA was trying to get away from this guy being MAGA. Now, it seems that he's not MAGA, right? Well, that's at least the latest information we have. We will talk about something a bit later on, but that's the latest information we have. But that means he was wrong, even though he was still right because they were trying to distance themselves, even though they ended up being right to distance themselves. So it's very, very mild. And you may know what's coming up next, but this is also a comment that was made over the weekend by a Fox News host, Brian Kilmeade, this guy on the right-hand side.
They have given billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill him.
Yeah, just kill him. So a host on Fox News over the weekend, or end of last week, said what you could do to homeless people is just kill them. You could just kill them. That would be the other option. You could just kill them. Jimmy Kimmel's lost his job. Brian Kilmeade still has his. Fox News, what do you do to homeless people? You just kill them. What about when then there is a shooting and a shoot up at a homeless encampment? Is that therefore, does Brian Kilmeade own that? Because he said you can just kill the homeless, and then days after that there was a shootout, a bunch of shootings at a homeless encampment. Brian Kilmeade, he still got his job. Jimmy Kimmel, who made a light-hearted joke cutting and made a statement which was technically factually correct, yet also the guy appears to not be MAGA, lost his job. Lost a job, gone, done and dusted. And the last part about this, which is pretty terrifying, is, again, we're borrowing some footage here from our friends at the Bulwark. We keep saying our friends and then we can do what we want. This is from a podcaster called Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson, oh, those numbers aren't right. Benny Johnson hosted the FCC chair. Now, the FCC chair is that it's not the same as New Zealand, but think about the Minister for Broadcasting. Minister for Broadcasting is probably about as close as you'd get. They have a very different system. It's not the same because they appoint the person, they're not voted in, but as the person sort of in charge of the airways in America. So just think if it was the Minister for Broadcasting here in New Zealand, and the Minister for Broadcasting came out and said, you know, we're going to have to do something about the commentary on this private company's radio station. And there's levers we can pull.
Fire.
That's what he had to say.
We have the video, so let's play the video of him.
Okay, let's play the video.
You know, when you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. As you've indicated, there are, avenues here for the FCC. So there are some ways in which I need to be a little bit careful, because we could be called ultimately to be a judge on some of these claims that come up, but I don't think this is an isolated.
You don't have to be a judge of these claims if you just force the hand of the network by putting pressure on them from the Trump government just to get rid of someone for something incredibly minor. Oh, did I tell you there was that guy on Fox News that said we could just kill all the homeless? Did I mention that at any stage?
Incident. I mean, obviously, look, there's calls for Kimmel to be fired. I think, you could certainly see a path forward for suspension over this. And again, the FCC is going to have remedies that we could look at. Disney needs to see some change here, but the individual licensed stations that are taking their content, it's time for them to step up and say this, garbage, to the extent that that's what comes down the pipe in the future, isn't something that we think serves the needs of our local communities. But this sort of status quo is obviously not acceptable where we are.
So just remember again, just think of that. The Minister for Broadcasting, right, comes out and says, yeah, we're not going to accept this anymore. There's levers we can pull. I should be a bit careful because I am a minister, but there's things we can do. And if they don't get their act together, we'll pull those levers. So what happens? These billion, trillion dollar companies in America don't want to fight with the White House. They can't afford to get their licenses suspended. They want to have as smooth a ride as possible under this arsonist government in America. And so Stephen Colbert, gone. Jimmy Kimmel, gone. And the other reason you know that this is what's happening is that Trump is actively calling for it. Trump actively wants these groups gone, and they're just not subtle at hinting at it anymore. This is only 8 seconds. I'll just play it for you so you can see what Trump has said about Colbert and Kimmel, and where his next targets might just be for the FCC.
Something that Jimmy Kimmel is next after what happened with Stephen Colbert.
Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon. You know that.
Donald Trump.
So, I know most of us have never been in a mafia sting, but you've got a really lovely deli. It'd be terrible if something happened to it. It's a shakedown. So that's the expanded full news around what's happened with Jimmy Kimmel. And I don't know, it's difficult to think about the business side of things. I think you always got to do what's morally correct. But if a tyrannical government caused you trouble that caused tens of thousands, hundreds of jobs to go, is it better to take the bitter pill or not? I don't think so. It's a bit of a moral high ground you can take when you have to make that decision. But the point being, the definition of free speech abuse, the definition of it, is when the government imposes upon you and stops your speech. we always talk about free speech when we're talking about private businesses. It's not really the same. It's really protection to be able to say whatever you want to and about a government. And this is literally an example. You're listening, Free Speech Union? This is literally an example of the government, Trump, FCC, putting pressure on a private company to restrict Jimmy Kimmel's speech. You heard it. It's really minor. It's not much he said in there that would cause any kind of ructions on any other day with any other politician, except for the thin-skinned orange man who wants to be Kim Jong-un of America. Right. A couple of chats that have come down. Let's stop talking about Kirk after this week, please. I will not commit to that. If it's in the news, we talk about it. If it's not, we won't. There's a chance we may stop talking about it. If it's still one of the biggest news stories in the world, then we will. That's how it kind of goes. Thank you for your super chat. Peter says everyone should avoid spending on US corporate media like Disney, who are ABC's owners. They will bend the knee and only understand money. Yeah, there you go. We all know that it won't make much difference to the bottom line in New Zealand, but there's a way you can take perhaps a moral stance and do something like that. I like it. Okay. We're going to move on to our next story of the day, and we are going to welcome to the show the very lovely economist from the CTU and podcast extraordinaire from Locked Out. It's only bloody Craig Renney. Kia ora, Craig.
Kia ora, Pat. How are you?
I'm good. I see you're in casual mode because you haven't got a jacket on, but you're still wearing a shirt. So, you know, you've got to have the...
It's been a long day. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. Is this Christmas for you, or is this like... hell? Is this like a hell day for you? What is your how do you feel about it?
It's great. It's you know, any day you get fresh economic data is a good day. Anytime you get to interpret what's going on is a good day. But sort of it's been a long day because we don't normally get days where the data moves around as much as this, where we can quite clearly see what's going on quite as much as this data set. And I was just listening into the show. And so I thought I'd, be adding the cheery, uplifting end to this particular slot. It's do you want me just to talk and tell the viewers at home about GDP?
I thought what we'd do is it's funny. Nicola Wilson is the only person in the world that sits down during a stand-up. So she had a sit down today. And this is on the Herald's website, and you can see it's 30 minutes long. And I thought, I should go through this and pull out some clips, and then we could just talk about that. She talks for 2 minutes. So this GDP announcement, which I've already kind of said what you've said to me today, Craig, which is kind of as bad as it can be, that got all of 2 minutes of her time to prepare a statement, and that's about it. So I actually thought, rather than watching TVNZ news item, it's just 4.5. The TVNZ news item was 2.5 times longer than the statement that Nicola Willis made about GDP today. Something else that's interesting about this statement, because then it goes into Q&A with the journalists, she mentioned the phrase tariffs 13 times. Me wonders if they're trying to point to do like squirrel, look away. The word tariff got mentioned 13 times in this. So I thought what we might just do, Craig, is actually watch the 2 minutes of her actual prepared statement, and then we can speak to it, because she says some things that don't make much sense from what you've told me. I might stop a couple of times, but let's have a listen to what Nicola Willis said today announcing the GDP numbers.
Well, as expected, economic data released today reflects the impact that global uncertainty...
See, I'm not going to stop this quickly, but that confused me from the start. As expected... Now, we'll talk about it at the end of this clip, Craig, but from what you've said and from what most analysts and banks have said, this was not expected at all. But the first words out of her mouth were, as expected. So we can come back to that at the very end. We'll try and let her get to her points, though.
Volatility has had on New Zealand workers and businesses. The Stats NZ figures released today show that having increased 0.9% in the first 3 months of the year, GDP has now fallen back 0.9% in the second quarter of the year. International turmoil and uncertainty relating to tariffs clearly had a significant impact on firms and households' willingness to make investment decisions. Economists will have a range of views.
Oh, we've got one of those tonight, Whānau, so we can find out a range of views because we have one. We have one that we prepared earlier.
My view is that the Trump tariff announcement had an outsized effect on the New Zealand psyche and people's willingness to take the risk of greater investment.
I didn't know she was a spiritual person talking about New Zealand's psyche, but she's obviously turned into something there.
Second quarter of the year, which is what relates to the data we're discussing today, started the day before the United States tariffs were announced, and it does seem to have had a chilling effect here at home. The economy had been growing strongly in the previous 6 months, but suddenly had the stuffing knocked out of it. And I feel for all those people and businesses who have been affected, and I think this data reflects sentiment that was already widely understood on the ground.
Oh, that's interesting. So this was completely expected and everyone knew this was coming. This is what we're hearing so far.
It is important to remember that this is backwards-looking data. We are now nearing the end of the third quarter, and there are signs that the economy is now growing again. People have recovered from the sentiment impact of the Trump tariffs to some extent. In addition, lower interest rates are filtering through the economy. There is evidence of increased mortgage lending. Around half of mortgages are set to refix on lower rates in the next 6 months, and the outlook for most export sectors remains positive. All forecasters that I've seen are expecting economic growth to strengthen from now on.
I know why she says it like that, Craig. Because you told me today, of course, it's going to improve in the next quarter because it can't get any worse. So there's one of those, she's wrapped that up quite nicely, that all forecasters are saying it's going to get better, and that's because we're at the bottom of the bottom. It has to go up from here.
As the uncertainty about the impact of tariffs eases. There is no doubt that the second quarter of this year was a difficult period for the New Zealand economy, that we have the conditions now for future growth, and that is what our government is working hard every day to support. I'll take your questions.
And that's it. That's the sit down stand up. The first question that comes out of it is beautiful. Actually, I'm not going to play it. The first question out of the stand up is, how can you claim that international tariffs affect us so badly when Australia grew 0.6? They've got the same international tariffs. What about countries that are growing in their economy? So there you go, Craig. Christmas for you. The court is yours. The stage is yours. What are we talking about?
Just before we start, I just want to there was just a lovely phrase, backwards looking data. This is backwards looking data.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back there.
Do you know what we call forward looking data?
Projections. I don't know.
I guess. So it's not data.
So it's hindsight is 2020.
The only data that exists anywhere in the world that is observed is backward-looking data.
Of course. It's that idea about spend yesterday's money. The stuff that's already in the bank, you know it's there.
So, but I just looked at it. This is backwards-looking data. Yes, as is every other single piece of data on Stats NZ's website.
Right.
By definition, if it's data and it's real data, then it's backwards looking. But we'll gloss over that for just 1 second. The numbers were bad.
Yeah.
Now, there's kind of scales of bad, right? From sort of, shoot the dog and burn the house down, right? Through to, forget about it, we don't care. Yeah? You're cleaning the rifle at this point.
Oh,
right?
gosh.
Right? Minus 0.9% is 3 times as bad as the Reserve Bank was forecasting just a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
The Treasury was forecasting in May of this year at the budget that we would be growing at this point by 0.7%. So we're 1.6%.
1.6. Can I just let me pause you for 1 second, because we hear these numbers 0.9, 1.6, and when I hear data, like I think about polling, and there's like a margin of error, and so the number 0.9, I'm like, is that
Yeah.
within margin of error? Like, can you contextualize what 0.9 means to us? Is there like a margin of error? Does that mean it's not such a big deal, or how does it work?
There is a margin for error, and the margin for error is bigger when the data is first released and gets smaller and smaller and smaller over time as you have revisions. Some data has moved around a lot. So, for example, after during the last election, we were in recession. If you remember, we were having a big recession. It was a big problem. Turns out we weren't. Turns out the economy was actually growing at 2.4%.
So that was the revision of what was there was a guess, and then they did the data.
Yep. And so these things do move around, but our economy is $420 billion.
Okay.
Right. So 1%. Right, is $4.2 billion. So if you're 1.6% out, then you're about 6.4% in terms of $6.4 billion out. To put that into context, that's about what we spend on secondary education in New Zealand.
Wow. Okay. Holy moly, that's big. And of course, when it's the backward facing data, I'm assuming there's no margin for error there because, as you say, the numbers are there.
Oh, no, the numbers are there, but the numbers do move around. They do get revised a little bit around. You know, we find new data. We discover mistakes. We correct these things over time, but not that much.
Yeah.
And certainly, an order of magnitude of 0.9% is enormous. Let me give you a different way of thinking about it.
Yep.
Right.
Please do.
Q3 2023, so the third quarter of 2023, GDP for that quarter was $70.717 billion.
Yeah.
Right. The last set of data was $69.85 billion.
Yeah.
So since the election, the economy on a quarterly basis, seasonally adjusted for inflation, is 1.2% smaller than it was at the election when we were going to get, if you remember, back on track.
Yeah. Is that anything to do with like spending trends and stuff? Because is winter a time that we spend less? Like I'm just going if we look like you would think Q4 would have the most kind of spending because that's around Christmas and like is there any of that that National can blame?
No, because you're right. Sort of retail will go up in Q4, but tourism will go down. Right. And so what we do is we do a thing called seasonal adjustment, which gets rid of that noise in the data. And so you apply that that noise reduction consistently. And so you're able to say, this is a much better comparison from point A to point B.
Gotcha.
And so that seasonally adjusted basis data, the economy's fallen on a quarterly basis by 1.2%. Now, as I say, the Reserve Bank was forecasting a 0.3% fall.
Yep.
Treasury a 0.7% increase. The big banks, ANZ was forecasting a 0.4% fall. Westpac a 0.4% fall. So this is more than twice as large as the kind of mainstream forecasters were saying about the economy.
Mm-hmm.
GDP fell in 10 out of 16 sectors. Why is that important? Because Nicola the Minister of Finance talked about Trump's tariffs and the impact that Trump's tariffs have, and as you say, suggested that it somehow psychologically impacted New Zealanders. Now, I'll leave whether or not most New Zealanders care or think about whether or not Trump's tariffs are having an impact on their lives when they're buying a tin of beans, but let's assume it might be true. When your economy in 10 out of 16 sectors falls, manufacturing fell 3.5% in 3 months. So if we extrapolated that out over a year, that would mean manufacturing had fallen about 15% over a year. Right? That's a COVID level event.
Mm.
Right? Mining fell 4.1%. It's a small number. It moves around a lot, but it fell a lot. Retail trade fell. Financial services fell. Business services fell. Healthcare and social assistance fell. Agriculture fell. Forestry fell. So some of these things agriculture might face tariffs, but healthcare and social assistance doesn't face any tariffs. Financial services, by definition, is a service. There is no tariff. Business services, there is no tariff. This is bananas. You can blame Trump all you want. You can blame an orange-faced baboon in the White House as much as you like, right?
Yeah.
The difficulty is when 10 out of 16 sectors falls, then by definition, that's a broad-based fall in the economy. That's very little to do with one point. This is you can hear the sound of the confidence being sucked out of the economy.
Yeah. I think what we try and do here is be fair, and we say to this government, we will hold you to the same standard you held the last government to, or we will hold you to the standard you set for yourself. Now, I think international pressures can make a difference and can impact us, yet this government refused to allow the last government to cite international pressures based around a once-in-a-generation pandemic and, supply side issues going on because of that pandemic. They refused to allow them to point to that. So I think it's only fair that we do not allow this government, how much they do or don't impact, to point to tariffs, because you are going to be held to the same standard as you held the last guys to. So even if that does play a part, you don't get to play that card, because if we allowed you to do that, it would be hypocritical.
Well, even if we allowed them to play that card, it would still be meaningless, as you pointed out originally. Australia is growing. The basket case of the economy, that where I come from, the UK, that's growing again. The US economy right now is growing. Around the world there is some growth, particularly the trading partners we work with. Even the Chinese economy, whilst struggling, is growing.
Yeah.
There is not, unemployment in Australia is 4.2%, and they've got huge labour demand problems, which is why we have New Zealanders getting on airplanes as fast as is humanly possible. So this isn't just one-off factors. This isn't a Trump tariff. This isn't, oh no, we ran out of concrete, so therefore the construction sector falls apart. Right? Yeah. This is a broad-based, decline in the economy. And, to give you a different number to help, again, the audience understand what's really going on, over the past 15 months, we have been in economic decline. So GDP's been going backwards for 9 of those 15 months.
Wow.
So it's not a one-off effect again. It's not like, oh, this has just suddenly turned up. Actually, we were doing badly. We went up a bit and we've gone back down again. And the reasons for this are quite straightforward in the data. Business investment fell quite significantly. Business investment fell for plant, for equipment, for machinery, for commercial buildings. It fell for transport equipment. We bought less cars, fewer buses, other things. So business investment fell across the piece. Residential investment fell 1.9%. So we're building fewer houses. And against a year ago, construction is about 10% smaller than it was a year ago. So that means that literally we have 16,000 fewer people working in construction than at the election. Now, this is what I mean by, it's not only not great, all of the sectors are seeing the same thing.
Yep.
We're seeing this broad-based decline. This GDP number is enormous. And hilariously, as you said earlier, Pat, things will get better simply because they cannot get worse. If they continue to get worse at this rate, then we need to be checking the dials to make sure we're collecting the data properly, because it's kind of, oh, hang on a second, there must be something else amiss.
I see this afternoon. It's like you've got a water tank and the water tank is bone dry. There is literally not a drop of water in it. So literally the only thing that can happen is a drip of water can be added in, and then 2 drips and then 5 drips. So in other words, it can't get any emptier, can't get any worse. The only way is to add water to the tank. The only way is to improve the numbers for the GDP.
The tank is dry at an atomic level.
Yeah.
right? Never mind H2O, just some H would be okay.
Yeah.
Right, at this point, right? So again, I bang on about GDP, right? And GDP is a great number. It's an interesting number. But as Simon Kuznets said, the inventor of GDP, it doesn't actually mean anything. It's just the size of the economy, the size of the output, right? But when you add it to the other data that we have, it paints a picture of Aotearoa. We've got unemployment at 5.2%, and the only reason it's not going up faster is because people are getting on airplanes and leaving, and because we have underutilization. So people are now can't find hours. They're taking part-time work. They're doing any work that they can. We have underutilization of more than 400,000 people. That's a record in New Zealand. Māori unemployment is 10%. Pacifica people's unemployment is 12.2%. Young people's unemployment is about 15%. Again, we add this with the GDP data. People are spending longer on job seekers. The number of people who have gone from 6 months to a year on job seekers went from 17.5% to 22.5%. So again, when people are out of work, they're spending longer out of work. The number of people on job seekers increased 6.1% this year, and the percentage of the working age population on some form of job seekers is 6.6%. Inflation's 2.7%, but it's only 2.7% because petrol and rents are going down. If you take petrol out, it's 3.2%, but we had data earlier this week. Food prices are going up 5%, meat's going up 9%, dairy's going up whatever they can charge this week, right? Bread is up 10%. White sliced bread, the kind of basic bread, the kind of bottom of the shelf, just bog standard supermarket white sliced bread, is up 41.7%.
Wow.
Right? All of this stuff, right, is telling you, right, that the plan from the government, and the plan from the government has 3 bits. Let's cut taxes, and that'll stimulate the economy. That doesn't work, so let's cut the public sector, and that'll create the space for the private sector to grow. And then that doesn't work, so we go, okay, let's let the Reserve Bank step in and cut interest rates. Well, of course, you can't do that if inflation's doing this.
Yeah.
So you end up, we have a phrase in economics, it's called stagflation. Right? You have a stagnant economy and inflation at the same time. It's the worst of all worlds. Right? And it means your economic plan needs to change. And that's my only plea, is that we can let's forget the past. Let's put it to one side, right? There are real people and their families, their whānau, their communities who are going to be hurt if we do not. There are real people who are going to lose their jobs, their incomes, at times their dignity, because they do not have the ability to pay the bills, look after their kids, because of the economic plan we have today. Economics is a wonderful subject, but sometimes actually stuff is more important than it, right? And we can all have different opinions about how the economy should work, but when something as badly as this is happening, stop, rethink, and say, let's do something differently, because we've now had 2 years of this. Child poverty is on the way up. Unemployment is on the way up. Welfare benefits are on the way up. Yet we've spent 2 years chipping away at the public service as if that's the solution to our problem. Let's do something different.
Yes.
Again, as I said at the beginning, Pat, I'm going to bring the light and fluffy and uplifting stories.
Well, I mean,
compared to
talking about Charlie Kirk, it's pretty light and fluffy, but yeah. Hey, Craig, thank you for joining us. Lots of aroha for you in the chat. Poreva says, thank you, Craig, for what you do. Arohanui. And more. Kiwi Bird says, error, blame labour.exe has stopped working, which I think is fair. Yeah, they I mean, Luxon said it a few weeks ago about inflation. We own this now.
Yes,
we've got it. They own this. It's theirs. They can't blame them anymore. If it gets much worse, they'll try and relight that fire of blame Labor. But it's theirs now. And we've got 12 months to come to the election. They're facing in so many areas sort of the worst of the worst in a run up to election. Whether it's the economy, whether it's crime, that's all just bad. And they are going to try and get a second term by still saying they are the adults in the room. We'll see what happens.
Now, I don't want to correct one of your viewers because that's not great karma. My guess is that there's about 408 days to the election.
Oh, I feel a scrap. There's a fight coming. All right, Craig. Hey, your podcast for this week is already out. It's already doing good numbers on YouTube. People can go to Locked Out. You can actually go to, I should double check it. Should I check it in real time? lockedoutpod.nz, LOCKEDOUTPOD.nz. And while you're there, Craig, because I'm completely unprofessional, we need to get a little write up about you. So put in there a little
fair enough.
thing. So there you go. Today's I think it re-uploads at midnight. So by tomorrow morning, the new podcast will be there. It is on YouTube, it is on Apple and Spotify, and it is on Facebook already if people want to check it out. And thanks for what you do, Craig. Thanks for being available, and we'll talk to you super soon.
Thanks so much.
All right, all the best. Greg Renney, economist from the CTU, and soon to be, I'm speaking it into the world, award-winning podcaster. Podcast awards are coming up in a few months. I'm just putting that out there. I'm putting it out to the universe. Okay, a few super chats that have come in. Old Orange Codger with a Tiny Todger. I still like Cankle's McTaco Tits. I still think that's the best name for Trump. Cankle's McTaco Tits. That's my fave. Speed locked again. When you are incompetent, you expect to fail at your job, says Nikki. Arvid says, when do I get my extra ice cream at the movies? Yeah, dollars. We get $1 back, $2 back. Mind you, someone said I read something the other day that was $2.50. They get $2.50 a week. That's not even a ice cream at the they're like $4 or $5, aren't they? In my day, you get them for 2 halfpennies and 1,000 sweeties at the same time. We are going to have a look at this story, this very last one for the week. Maybe for the week. I don't know what the guy's doing tomorrow. But I do want to have a look at, and the one last thing about the Charlie Kirk situation before we go into our last conversation is about the text messages that have been released. Now, I only mention this because it seems very strange when you've got many on the left and on the right, including people like Steve Bannon in there as well, not believing this text message. So when people on Twitter and stuff are going, come on, Pat, aren't you going to say he's a leftist so far? Look, I think probability of statistics, that's not a thing, but the most likely probability is he did swing left, and that was who he was. The question then has to be, though, is that what caused him to commit a crime? Should this man have committed the crime? Like you wouldn't say to a pickpocketer, you're a Democrat, makes sense, and I'm not being silly, I'm not saying it won't be, but that's the next step. After it is we use it politically, then is how did that contribute to this alleged crime? That's the next stage. So if you haven't heard these yet, this is allegedly, I'm saying allegedly, and I'll tell you why shortly, between the accused gunman and roommate. Still calling roommate. Some are saying gay lover. Some are saying trans partner. This story reads them as roommate. Let me read it to you, and then I'll explain why this is making many people on the left and the right suspicious. Robinson, drop what you are doing, look under my keyboard. Roommate, what? You're joking, right? Oh, because it said that he's going to take Charlie Kirk out. I'm still okay, my love, says Robinson, but I'm stuck in Orem for a while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I got to grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep the secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you, the roommate says. You weren't the one who did it, right? He said, I am sorry. Text message between two 22-year-olds. I thought they caught the person. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from the drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Why? Why did I do it? Yeah, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. He says, if I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully, they've moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Roommate says, how long have you been planning this? He says, a bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by. I think they already swept the spot. I don't want to chance it. Robinson goes on to say, I'm wishing I'd circled back and grabbed it sooner as I got my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't know, maybe. If it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about my prints. I had to leave it in a bush. It's convenient to mention that in a text, isn't it? Where I changed my outfits, didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints on. How the fuck will I explain this to my old man? Only thing I left was a rifle wrapped in a towel. Yeah, it goes on. So there are some on the left and many on the right who are going, yeah, that doesn't seem true. There is one particular Twitter user who says this: I try not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I have a really hard time believing in a short text exchange, the alleged shooter. So this is what he does in that thing. He makes his confession. He confirms location of weapon. He confirms type of weapon. He confirms it was wrapped in a towel. He confirms the motive. He exonerates the decoy. He admits to the bullet engravings. Oh, yeah, that was said later on as well. When you see me, I should probably read that because that was one of the funniest things. He says, at some stage he goes, when I've been scribing on those rifles, yeah, remember how I was engraving bullets? The fucking messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. So he admits to bullet engravings. He confirms the wardrobe change. He confirms how long he's been planning it. He discloses the existence and location of a now destroyed pre-written confession note. He randomly tells his boyfriend that his dad is diehard MAGA, as if he wouldn't already know given the nature of their relationship, and is worried about his dad/grandpa being upset if he doesn't come home with a rifle, not the fact that he just used it to commit a murder. Not to mention a 22-year-old terminally online Zoomer using phrases like squad car drop point, sweep the area, my vehicle till I died of old age, my old man. This one person on Twitter, who has obviously got some kind of profile, nearly 300,000 followers, says, I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. There we go. And that is the last of that for this week. Yeah. So whilst people, well, I mean, literally, Elon Musk made up his mind 3 minutes after the shooting, and then between then and now, most people on the right have found their way to a guaranteed person on the left. Signs are certainly more pointing towards the left than the right. It's not something that really concerns me where they are politically, just me personally. Because remember, yesterday, like I said, people with power or influence, they're the opinions that matter, right? Not randos on the street corner, not your Uncle Bob on Facebook. They're the ones that matter, people who can make a difference. And the other thing is what is still unequivocal, and people are pushing back about this a lot, and you shouldn't be because it's unchallengeable, is the right in general, like looking not at the individual event, but the bulk of the data is exponentially more violent than the left. So when the right start to talk about this as the continuation of the leftist thing, it's just stupid. Someone today, I put up some research from the ADL, and they got all pissy and they said, we don't trust the ADL on this and that. And I went, okay. And I went, well, here's one from this criminologist school. Here's one from this university. Here's one from this group, all research saying exactly the same thing. And I'm like, are you still there? Because they had obviously run away. Where are you? You're nowhere to be seen. That's an unchallengeable fact that the right in America has far more political violence than the left in America. Let's start the conversation there, and then we can continue on. We don't start from a conversation of bullshit that it's the left that are, as Elon Musk said, the party of murder. Not going to do it. Anywho, the last conversation for tonight, our last guest, our last co-host is Ripeka Lessels, who is the president of the NZEI. I had a chance to talk to Ripeka this afternoon before we came on, because there is an historic strike about to happen, and I wanted to find out more about it. And so we had a bit of a chat about it. You are still welcome to chat. I can still put chats up and over, but as you can see by the different colouring, the green is a little symbol that this is a pre-recorded conversation, not a live conversation, but happy to still overlay your chats if you've got anything you'd like to add. Other than that, we will see you at the end of the conversation. Enjoy. Want to welcome to the show the president of the NZEI, Ripeka Lessels. Ripeka, thank you so much for joining us.
Kia ora, thank you.
Lovely to see you. Thank you for making some time for us today. The media is reporting an upcoming strike as an historic first by primary school teachers, principals and support staff. Let me read a couple of paragraphs from the Stuff article. It says, primary school teachers, principals, school support staff and Ministry of Education specialists will all strike in what the union NZEI calls a historic first. As a teacher, should it not be an historic first? Or have we dropped that old school stuff? I thought we said an historic. Anyway.
Yeah. Grammatically, grammatically it should be an historic first.
Oh, look at us showing stuff how to write their words. Hey, why? Why is this an historic first? What's going on?
Well, this is the first time that support staff will have gone out on strike ever in the history of. Can
we also just so for people who don't know, define for us a support staff in a primary school?
Yes, well, in a primary school, they are traditionally learning assistants, teacher aides. They can be, specifically designated roles in some sorts of both teaching roles or support roles in the classroom and support roles in any other ancillary position in the school. Support staff are also members. We have members in secondary school that are considered ancillary or support staff there that are also members of NZEI in the secondary service.
Okay.
So it's quite a wide group of people, and this is the first time that they would ever have taken strike action.
That's amazing. So I think of like a teacher aide or a person to help, say, a disabled person as a support staff, as a couple of kind of classic examples.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what they are. They can be funded from Ministry of Education support funding.
Yep.
Or they could be funded by the board who sees the need to to support children specifically with those that need learning support. If the Ministry of Education funds are not sufficient, which is a lot of the time.
and that group within our education system have never once ever gone on strike.
No.
Wow.
No, we've never done this before. No.
So just out of interest, like if teachers went out on strike on those days, what was the support staff doing?
Well, they would be called back into school to do other tasks.
Okay.
They're not designated teachers.
Yep.
So they can't be in front of a classroom of children. So you can't call them back into the school to say, well, you've now got to look after this classroom of children.
Sure.
But they can be called back in to do other tasks that are that the school, the principal may require them to do.
Okay. So this latest announcement, again, primary school teachers, principals, school support staff and Ministry of Education specialists all going on strike. Did we leave out anyone else? The Ministry of Education specialists, do you want to explain who they are?
Well, the Ministry of Ed, there are lots of roles in the ministry that provide extra and other supports for children in schools. And so those members can either be members of the Public Service Association, the PSA, or they can be NZEI members. And so we have people who might be field staff, whose job it might be, might be intervention teacher somewhere that's entitled to be a member of NZEI. There are members like in MOE that are NZEI members like speech language therapists that are also entitled to be members of NZEI. There are what we call learning support workers. They're similar to support workers in schools, but these ones are funded by the ministry.
Okay.
And they are designated specifically for children that are funded by the ministry. And they can also be NZEI members.
Out of interest, they're described as Ministry of Education specialists. Are they all based in the schools, or any of those roles based actually like in the ministry, like head office sort of thing?
They are based in the ministry. They belong to the ministry, or they are in a ministry office somewhere around the country.
Okay.
And they work with schools, in schools, but they're based in a ministry office somewhere around the country.
Wow, because so I'm just painting the picture here. We're going to have this flood of public servants coming out of the schools, which you'll have your principals, your teachers, and your school support staff, and coming out of ministry offices to come together on, I think we've announced one day, 23rd of October at this point, and striking together. So people who are in the buildings where the management or the senior management are being told your offer is not good enough, people within their building are potentially leaving the building to go on strike on that day as well.
Technically, that is technically correct.
Wow. All right. So that's the reason it's historic, is because all of those groups are coming together on one day. And what's going on? What's the strike all about? Where are you guys at with the government right now?
Well, largely, this action has been called for by the members because they don't believe that the current government is valuing the role and the profession of teachers. These teachers, have largely been undervalued by their salary not being comparable to the current living cost increases right across, not just food, but right across the cost of living. And so this action they've called for, not necessarily just for pay. Pay is essential, but it's not sufficient. But there are other things that are important that members have told us that are really, really important for the negotiation teams to remember and to remind the ministry negotiators that they want. So this is a, because the teachers have had offers, 2 offers, and they chose to reject both offers because they don't believe that the offer went far enough in terms of the conditions of work that they believe are necessary to meet the needs of the ever-growing variety of neurodiverse children in classrooms.
I'm interested in the process, because you just said teams of negotiators.
Yes.
How does this work practically? Is it like, Otago teachers and Wellington teachers, and they come together, and then they come in together, and they come in together to answer the offer? When you say teams, how does it exactly work?
So when I refer to teams, I mean teams of support staff. So there's one negotiating team for all of the support staff. There's one negotiating team for all of the principals, one for all of the teachers. So when I say team, I mean there is only one per team, and they work with another layer of teachers that they have that they can call on, as well as other layers that they can get their feedback from teachers, teachers and support staff and principals, in order to ensure that the mandate they have to negotiate is what our members are asking for is current. So that's what I mean by teams.
Okay, that's clear. You also talked about that it's not just, paraphrasing, it's not just about the money. There are other important things you're saying. I read in the article that the offer also overlooks the need for greater recognition of te tiriti and te reo Māori. Is this a part of the other of this? There's the money and there's the other. What are some of the other things that teachers are looking for?
Well, we have seen a steady erosion of any obligations to give effect to the Treaty of Waitangi, not just in education, but actually right across all portfolios that this government is holding. And one of the things that our members were really clear about is that they wanted a statement in the collective agreement that allowed for both ministry, for both the government and teachers, support staff, principals, to maintain having or to maintain giving effect to the Treaty of Waitangi. In other words, putting a clause into the collective agreement that that almost allows for the treaty to be in a collective agreement. We've not ever done that before, but because of the, as I said, the steady erosion that we've been seeing, that's what members asked for. They wanted to put in a clause that that made sure that the Treaty of Waitangi was in a collective agreement. And then once it's in a collective agreement, then it's not so easy to take it out.
Yeah, so what I hear you saying is part of your response to how this government has operated overall around Māori issues is to protect that within the teaching collective. Is that basically what I'm hearing?
That's basically what you're hearing. Yeah.
So that makes me think as well, when, and I guess this is more of a logistical kind of question, and I apologize if it doesn't really make sense, but I'm thinking how there's an offer made by the government, Erica Stanford, the government, and then Teachers Council, teachers in one voice say, no, here's our counter offer. Do you understand, does that have to go to like cabinet to get sign off on, or because Erica Stanford is in charge, is she just the one making the final decision? The reason I ask it is because if you're trying to put into writing issues around te tiriti, I would imagine David Seymour could be a pretty big hurdle to get across if it needs to be a government agreed sort of passing of the law. Do you know what I'm saying?
Traditionally, negotiations are traditionally done or have traditionally been done, and I've been on the area school principals negotiating teams for the last 3 rounds. But traditionally, the negotiations are done in good faith between whoever the representative is for the current minister,
right,
and the representatives for NZEI. That's where the negotiations happen. This is the first year in my 40 plus years of being a teacher, and I don't know how many negotiating rounds, that the Public Service Commissioner has now taken back the responsibility of being the leading these negotiations. So generally, he can designate the role of negotiations to the minister, but and he has, and Sir Brian Roche has only been appointed the commissioner since last year. But up until him, I don't know any commissioner in my 40 years of teaching who has taken on this role. So, which kind of means that the Ministry of Education and the Public Service Commission have to work together, because together they are the other side of the bargaining agent. Our bargaining team is them. So that's a first for a long. It might have happened before my time, but I've not known it in my time.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you, why do you think that was? But I guess what you're saying is you've never seen it before, so who knows? It sounds like it's becoming there's more layers of bureaucracy or more layers of communication. So this is innately going to take longer than it should anyway. Yeah, that's a strange one. So someone who normally designates that job to other people is doing it for themselves, is what you're saying.
Yes.
But then that person who's doing it for himself still then has to talk with other people before they sign off on it.
I mean, I don't know whether he necessarily has to per se, but it would make sense to. In the long run, it would make sense to. Yes.
Where is the negotiation? So, like, what are you guys wanting and what is coming back to you? What distance do you have between the two parties to come to an agreement from your perspective?
There's always room in negotiations. That's why they're called negotiations.
Sure.
Because the ability to move between claims, you talked about the ministry brings their claims. They actually, the two negotiating teams bring both sets of claims together. And then they work on whatever they might be. And by and large, there is always a justification or a reason for why the claims look like they do. And it's our negotiating team's job and role to work with the negotiator to say, well, this is why our members have called for this. And then on the other side, the ministry negotiators obviously do exactly the same thing and tell us why we shouldn't have it, those sorts of, but that goes back and forth. But there's always room to negotiate. And at this particular juncture, I think that there is still room to negotiate. And because there's still things that, while I can't go into the detail of what's on the table, there's still wriggle room in some of the things that that our members are asking for.
Obviously, without going into the details, as you've just said, we are reporting today on the GDP numbers out for this quarter, which are a terrible result for the economy and for this government. Can you give us just an understanding? The reason I'm going to ask this because we're talking about there's been $23 billion in tax cuts so far. So this government has chosen to kind of get $23 billion and kind of take it out of their coffers, whether people agree or disagree with that. What kind of money are we talking overall? That's the disparity. Like, do you guys need is it $1 billion overall? Is it 500 million? Like, what's the change so we can understand what that would be? Because like when we talk about government money, we talk about hundreds of billions and it just kind of all means nothing. But when we understand that 23 billion has been returned in tax cuts, what kind of money are we talking that would bring this to an end for the teachers and the government? Do you know?
Well, if you take, for instance, the treaty claim that we have, it's cost neutral. It's not going to cost them anything at all. So, and there are a couple of things that the claims that the teachers are asking for, and even the principals are asking for, that are cost neutral. But they, for whatever reason, the ministry doesn't want to move on those, even though they are cost neutral. I can't give you an exact figure of what it's going to cost to get it, to get it over the line. What I do know is that we researched and surveyed what it would cost for learning support to meet the needs of our children with learning support. And that was going to cost $2.5 billion.
Right.
Now, while the education budget was $2.5 million, that's not specifically just for learning support.
Yeah.
And we went into those figures and those numbers before the budget, because those were the things that members were telling us that were needed. That is, a teacher aid in every classroom.
Yeah.
Those things that, that we needed to wrap around support for our most vulnerable children. So while I can't give you the number, Pat, we do know that what's currently there, the fiscal envelope that is currently there, is actually not going to do it. And this is a self-imposed fiscal envelope, I might also add.
It always is. It always is. It's because they're all choices. When the government says we've got no more money left to do that, but then you highlight how much they've given back, they're just making choices. They're shuffling the money how they want it to be shuffled. Hey, finally, Ripeka, 23rd of October, Strike Day.
Yes.
anything else we need to know about? Did you make it kind of 6 weeks away because then you give it time for negotiation in between in case you can cancel? Is that the reason for making it that far out? Yeah, okay.
That's
so what
not,
do we?
That's not the only reason, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
While we're still in a negotiation round, because negotiations can halt the whole thing.
And that is actually good faith, saying we'll give us long enough to keep talking, and if we can't.
Yep.
So do we need to know anything else about Strike Day?
Well, there'll be lots of things happening around the country on that particular day. And while it might be that teachers are not going to be in all schools closed from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on that day, there will be activities that teachers and communities can get involved in. Just I guess, to highlight the necessity or the need to support our support schools around the country, or to support what we believe is a lack of emphasis on the most important things that schools could be and should be doing, and don't have the resources or the funding or the resources to be able to do that, Pat.
It's funny, it's almost like the teachers are thinking of what's best for the kids, just like the nurses are thinking what's best for the patients, and that's not the narrative necessarily we have said back to us from this government. But
they've also, they've said it's really disruptive, but it's disruptive when children in classrooms, when we have a shortage of teachers and kids are being put into double up classes here and there are no relievers. That's awfully disruptive when that happens.
100%. The president of the NZEI, that is Ripeka Lessels. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciated your time, and we'll stay in touch in the lead up to the strike. Best of luck with that.
Kia ora, thank you, Pat.
There you go, team. That's us for another one. Co-hosting it again next week. Remember, if you missed the start of the show, our co-host from tonight was going to be Bomber. Bomber messaged me this morning saying he was super sick, which of course is all good. Jordan Rivers is going to be our co-host on Monday, and then we will reveal who are going to be other co-hosts for next week as well. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you for your grace, allowing me to fumble my way through a solo catch up. It wasn't really a solo. We kind of had co-hosts all the way through. We just had 3 different co-hosts. So thank you to Ripeka, and thank you to Craig and everyone else who was involved in the show, and to Mel as well. Sorry. I will be back on Monday night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hearing News. And also, of course, tomorrow night, the Bright Hearing News team will be in, I'm sure, with a whole bunch of super interesting stories and some hilarious memes along the way as well. All right, guys, that's it for me for this week. Thank you for being with us. We wish our little Wookie a good time in the UK. I'm assuming that he gets to see his favourite band this weekend, which will be very exciting. If you're not a Facebook friend of Chewy's or following him on Blue Sky, make sure you do, because I'm sure there'll be some updates there as well. And other than that, team, we'll just catch you next week, 9 p.m. for another week-long hilarity and fun times had by one and all. The thing we call Big Hearing News. I think it's time for me to go. Oh, okay. This is interesting. Why have we got no sound? Oh, okay. I found it. There it is there. Big Hairy News.
Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war puff to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe with an
I don't really have anything else to add, whānau. We'll catch you Monday night. Have a safe weekend. Everyone be safe. Do something nice for a loved one. And, have a good time. Have a good time, team. Hooroo.